Excuse me. Igor very clearly is a bit of a romantic, and he also has a conscience, even though he is, you will see, he is forced to kill several people. One of the heroines of the story, and this is a true story, this is an amazing story, a 22-year-old young woman named Elena Maznik was given the task of killing one of the most vile Nazis of the Second World War. He was the commandant of the Minsk ghetto, a man who boasted to Hitler that he had killed over 100,000 Jews and Russians. He took special delight in killing children. There's a terrible, I won't read it here because it's very touching and will bring tears to many eyes. Now all of this is true, what he did. But Elena is either his maid or mistress, we're never quite sure, and she blows him up with a bomb placed in a hot water bottle in his bed. And this is a true story. This actually happened. She became a hero of the Soviet Union. Now, we don't know how she got the bomb, we don't know how she escaped until you read the book. And obviously Igor is involved in this. But he obviously, and some terrible things happened after, because in retaliation, the Germans took 1,000 men from Minsk and shot them. So he's thinking about this, and let me just read you, this is a very brief chapter here. It's entitled The Murderer of Minsk. My mother, God rest her soul, tried to instill in her children the belief that there is an angel in all of us. No matter how terrible you think someone is, she would admonish us, just remember, no one is totally bad. Every one of us has some goodness inside that needs to be given a chance to blossom. You just need to look for it. Does that include Stalin, my father once asked, as the black crows made their daily rounds of terror? Her response was a glare in his direction. And I remember, too, during the Detroit race riots of July 1967, the TV screen showing us a tearful black woman cradling a young rioter gunned down in the streets. He was somebody's baby, she said softly. Somebody's sweet, dear baby. Well, no doubt William Kube was someone's dear sweet baby once. Why his journey from cooing and suckling baby to the man in charge of murdering tens of thousands of my people took him down such a twisted path, we will never know. How does one suck from a mother's breast the curdled milk of bestiality? Out of respect for my mother's memory, I searched long and hard to find any sign of an angel in Herr Kubik. I read every history book, every account of those terrible days, in a mostly vain attempt to detect anything in him other than the very heart of darkness, a Satan walking among us, posing as human. The accounts vary somewhat, but there appear to be two instances where Kubik emitted a faint whiff of humanity. On one occasion, he is reported to have suggested that Jews, who had won Iron Crosses in the First World War, should receive more humane treatment than those being stuffed into the ovens. The other instance, of which there is written documentation, occurred when he complained in writing that the special extermination squads should make sure that their victims were dead before burying them. The sight of badly wounded people digging themselves out of their graves is just too cruel, he wrote. The Fuhrer must be notified. Those are the only two instances. But I want to read you a little bit. So we move on now. He is in Ottawa. Now, as you know, this is another very strange thing. Igor Grzinko was a very literate man. At least this is what we are led to believe. In fact, he once wrote a book called The Titans of his Son book. And his English apparently was quite accomplished. Nonetheless, when he defected, or so they say, he showed up at the Ottawa Journal, the defunct Ottawa Journal, and talked to the editor on duty at the time. But apparently he could not make himself understood. Now I find this very strange in that he spoke very good English. So what really happened there? Well, here is what Igor Grzinko says, quote, "Because you cannot successfully drive while pointing a gun at your seatmate, I am behind the wheel. My driving experience is very limited, especially with a behemoth like a Hudson Super 6, but I managed to navigate the downtown streets of Ottawa and pull into the darkened parking lot of the Journal building. I'm watching closely for my chance to strike, but Pierre is a professional, and stays well out of my reach, with his gun steadily trained on me. I know, however, the odds are on my side. He has the pistol all right, but I have the Spetsnaz training, and he doesn't know it. He thinks he's dealing with some half-baked kid here, and sooner or later I'm positive he'll drop his guard. When he does, his reward, as we say back home, will not be collected on this side of the grass. I pluck the briefcase from the back seat, start walking towards the front entrance of the brightly lit Journal building. Pierre follows, but as we are about to step inside, he growls menacingly in a low voice, "Okay, you stinking commie, no funny stuff. Any tricks in there and I shoot you and the editor, you understand? Try to pull anything and you're both dead men. You know what you're supposed to do. You know what you're supposed to say. You got it?" I got it all right. My mind is churning, but I remain silent as though cowed. The newsroom is almost empty. One young lady, staring at her typewriter, looks up startled as we enter. Pierre, I notice, has stuffed his gun into his coat pocket. With no warning, I suddenly become extremely agitated and start yelling in broken English with a very thick Russian accent. "You help! I enlist! Russia, Russia! It's war! I must help!" All the while I am kind of dancing from one foot to the other and swinging the briefcase wildly about. I'm still shouting about lists and spies and help when an older man with a pencil stuck behind his ear wanders over, gives me a strange look. I know now his name is Chester Froud, the man unlucky enough to be the editor on duty that fateful night. I forget exactly what the poor man says to me, an inquiry as to what I want, I suppose. I become even more agitated, demanding protection. I talk about spies, wave my briefcase around. My accent gets thicker and thicker. My acting matches anything I was able to pull off back in the Minsk bakery. A totally confused Froud undoubtedly thinks he's got an escapee from a mental institute on his hands, and in an act that haunts him all of his life, he more or less pushes me out the door, briefcase still in my hand. Pierre is visibly seething with anger. Good. I'm ready for him. As we walk out the front door, he shouts, "You effing commie," and steps in close to drive his fist into my stomach. That's the last thing he utters on this earth. They taught me well back there in the Kiribati forest. I don't necessarily want to kill him, but the smash to his Adam's apple unfortunately snaps his neck. I feel a bit badly about it today. Pierre was only doing his job, but as I drag his body away from the lighted entrance to the darkened side of the building, before removing the envelope in his wallet and the gun from his jacket, his death is the last thing that concerns me. I want to, not all of the book deals with death and destruction. There's some beautiful